For most of the 20th century, retirement in America lasted about 15 years. You worked until 65. You collected a pension. You lived another 10, maybe 15 years. That was the plan. Then something started to change. Medicine got better. Hospitals got better. Every decade, the average 65-year-old lived a little longer, and a little longer, and a little longer. By 2024, a 65-year-old American could expect to live another 19.7 years. For a couple, the odds that at least one of them reaches 90 are better than even. The retirement your parents planned for lasted 15 years. The retirement you're planning for is going to last closer to 30. And that single shift, the doubling of retirement itself, changes every calculation that comes after it. Every number, every assumption, every plan built on the old math. Because most of the plans people have built were built for 15. So before we get to the real number, we have to start with the rule almost everyone uses, and why it's quietly broken. In 1994, a financial planner named William Bengen published a short paper. He'd run the numbers on every possible retirement in American history, every combination of years, every market. And he asked one question: how much could a retiree safely spend each year without running out? His answer became known as the 4% rule. Withdraw 4% of your savings in the first year. Adjust for inflation after that. And in almost every historical scenario, your money lasted 30 years. From that rule came another one, the one you've almost certainly heard. If you need $60,000 a year in retirement, you need 25 times that saved, $1.5 million. Multiply your yearly spending by 25. That's your number. Clean, simple, memorable, and the reason it's on every retirement blog in America. Here's the problem. Bengen's study assumed a 30-year retirement. He ran his numbers against the inflation and returns America had seen for decades. But 4 of his assumptions about what would happen during those 30 years have shifted. It assumed your health care would stay a modest part of retirement. It assumed inflation would hover around 3%. It assumed your spending would drop once you stopped working. And it assumed most retirees wouldn't actually live to use the full 30-year horizon. All 4 have shifted since 1994. These aren't small line items. They're the 4 variables that decide whether your money lasts. And each one has moved against retirees. So if the rule's foundation has shifted, then the real number has too. And it starts with the one most people underestimate by the largest margin. Ask a pre-retiree how much they'll spend on healthcare in retirement, and the average answer comes in around $75,000. Fidelity has actually measured this, because the real cost for the average 65-year-old couple today is $345,000 over the course of retirement. And that number doesn't include nursing home care. It doesn't include long-term care. It's what you pay even if nothing goes wrong. $345,000. For a couple, on top of your regular retirement spending, and about 70% of people who reach 65 will eventually need some form of long-term care, which Medicare does not cover. For most people, that's the cost of a house, and it's the single largest expense the 4% rule misses. The 4% rule was built for a 30-year retirement, and for a long time, that was conservative. Most retirees didn't get 30 years. They got 20, maybe 22. At those lengths, the math worked perfectly. But today, for a 65-year-old woman, the average is 20.8 more years. For a man, 18.4. And for a couple, the odds at least one of you reaches 90 are meaningful. which means the money isn't working for 15 years anymore. It's working for 30. The 30-year retirement isn't rare anymore. It's the new baseline. And every extra year is a year your savings have to survive inflation, while you're no longer earning. Bengen's rule assumed inflation would average around 3%, and for most of the last 30 years, it did. Then came 2022, then 2023, and retirees watched their grocery bills climb by double digits. In 2022 alone, inflation hit 9.1%. A retiree withdrawing $50,000 that year needed $54,500 the next, just to keep standing still. That's not a blip. That's a rewriting of the math. Social Security tries to keep up. The annual cost of living adjustment is what they call it. But in those 2 years, even the adjustment couldn't catch the actual bill. And every retiree who locked in a plan before 2022 learned that their number was built for a different economy than the one they were about to retire into. And then there's the variable the rule hides completely: what retirees actually do with their time. For decades, planners assumed spending would drop in retirement: less commuting, fewer work clothes, a quieter life. What the data actually shows is different. The first 10 years of retirement, what planners now call the go-go years, spending often goes up. Travel, home projects, helping adult children, visits to grandchildren across the country. Then it settles. Then healthcare climbs at the end. A 1994 rule assumed your retirement spending would drop by around 20%. A 2026 retirement often matches pre-retirement spending for the first decade. Sometimes it exceeds it, which means the starting point for your number isn't a lower version of your current life. It's the life you're living right now. Now layer all 4 variables together and compare what the math actually says you need with what Americans actually have. The gap is the story. In 2026, the typical American says they need $1.46 million to retire comfortably. That's up $200,000 from 2025. The goalpost literally moved $200,000 in 1 year. And the actual savings? For Americans aged 55 to 64, the people about to retire, the typical total across all retirement accounts is $185,000. $185,000 against a target of $1.46 million. That's 13% of the number. Most Americans approaching 65 are holding 13 cents on the dollar of what their own generation says they need. And more than half of households, 54%, have no dedicated retirement savings at all. This isn't a small shortfall, it's a structural one, which means if you're holding anywhere near that typical amount, you're not behind your generation. You're standing exactly in the middle of it. Social Security helps, but not in the way most people expect. The average monthly check in 2026 is about $2,076, roughly $25,000 a year, which replaces about 40% of the income an average worker made before retiring. Financial advisors typically recommend replacing 70 to 85%, which means, for most Americans, Social Security covers about half of what they'll actually need. The rest comes from savings. Put it all together, a 30-year horizon, $345,000 in healthcare for a couple. Spending that doesn't drop the way planners assumed. Inflation that can rewrite your budget in a single year. And a Social Security check that covers roughly half of what you need. The 4% rule was never designed for any of that. Which is why, for a modern retirement, most planners now suggest a number closer to 30 times your annual spending. Not 25, For a couple wanting $60,000 a year, that's not 1.5 million. It's closer to 1.8. That's the gap between what you were told and what the data says. And if you're looking at that gap right now and feeling a little cold, you're not alone. A record 4.18 million Americans turned 65 in 2025, the largest single-year cohort in history. Almost none of them have 1.8 million saved. But here's what the data also shows. The people who navigate this well aren't the ones who saved the most. They're the ones who planned for the right things. They priced in their real healthcare costs. They planned for 30 years, not 20. They built more than one source of income, not just Social Security and savings, but often part-time work, a small business, or rental income. And they kept their plan flexible. Because a 30-year retirement is going to have surprises. The first step, for anyone looking at this gap, isn't panic. It's a recalculation. Your actual spending, your actual healthcare exposure, your actual timeline. With those three numbers in hand, your real target stops being 1.46 million for some hypothetical American and starts being a specific number. For you, your real number won't match the headlines. It might be higher. It might, often, be lower. But it will be yours, and it will be built for 30 years, not 15. Because knowing your number is the easier part. Who you are once you stop working is the harder one. And that is where we'll go next. If this was useful, subscribe. Every Tuesday and Saturday, we cover what retirement actually takes. Money, health, purpose, the full picture. See you there.